Hello everyone, I'm KBlacutt, and today I will present my thesis research on designing for attention, connection, and embodiment in outdoor experiences. In 1996, Weiser and Seeley Brown introduced the concept of calm technology, which offers a vision of a future where technology enhances our peripheral awareness rather than demanding constant focus, allowing us to be more fully human. However, nearly 30 years later, this potential remains unrealized. Today's dominant technologies exploit our attention rather than expanding it. Studies report that the average Gen Z individual spends over 9 hours per day on screens, and more than 40% of users express challenges in managing their screen time. With the aim of promoting digital well-being and addressing the problem of tech addiction, the last few years have seen a proliferation of digital self-control tools in both academic research and off-the-shelf products. These tools aim to support self-control over technology by allowing people to track their usage patterns and set timers or locks on their devices. Others, like Jonathan Haidt, suggest smartphones be banned from schools. And some young people who describe themselves as former screenagers have formed anti-tech Luddite clubs. So while I support all these efforts, I think they're tech-centric in their approach, and that instead of trying to solve digital addiction with more technology or through the restriction of technology, we should propose alternative, better focal points for our attention. So what should we focus our attention on? Well, as our time spent on screens has increased, our time spent outdoors has decreased. Our disconnection from nature is evident. For example, the average American child can recognize 1,000 corporate logos, but can't identify 10 plants or animals native to their own region. I believe the outdoor world offers the widest variety of ways to practice different forms of attention. But why should attention and its types matter to us? Well, as D. Graham Burnett, founder of the School of Radical Attention, puts it, in today's attention economy, our attention is being fracked. It's being stolen by coercive digital technologies. Resisting the commodification of our attention isn't just about reclaiming focus. It's about becoming more fully human. So I think the outdoor world holds the most diverse opportunities through which to practice different forms of attention. In the outdoor world, we can engage multiple senses, we can have full body movements, and we can interact with other living beings. So, if we design for outdoor place-based experiences that engage the body and the senses, we can disrupt the sedentary, screen-centric habits that alienate us from nature and ourselves. The question then is, how can diverse attention practices and engagements with physical materials in the local landscape offer new ways of valuing those landscapes? More specifically, and in order to begin to tackle this larger question, my research question is, what value do college-age students currently ascribe to local landscapes in Pittsburgh? What about those landscapes are overlooked or underappreciated? And how can we design for experiences that reshape perception, inspire sustainable action, and uncover hidden material potentials? The first part of this question, which seeks to better understand existing conditions, is investigated by field observations and interviews. My field observations involved observing and documenting what people were doing and how they were interacting with the landscapes in places like Schenley Park, CMU's campus, and Schenley Plaza. My 10 interviews were conducted with interdisciplinary Gen Z participants from CMU, Duquesne, and University of Pittsburgh. In these interviews, I asked participants to describe their typical outdoor experiences, focusing on what they notice, what they value, and how their use of technology affects their attention and their experience. To answer the second part of my research question, which looks towards potential design interventions, I organized a generative walking workshop. So I led 5-hour-long walking sessions through Schenley Park with a total of 22 participants, where I prompted people to focus their attention on the landscape in different ways. My goal was to see if this curated walk could help participants be more connected to nature and also to generate ideas for design interventions next semester. To measure the impact of my activity on participants' connection to nature, I asked them to fill out the INS and CNS scales before and after the walk. These scales have been developed by environmental psychologists and have been widely used to assess different dimensions of nature connection. To guide participants in focusing their attention on the landscape, I designed prompts to encourage different forms of engagement with their surroundings. For example, in prompt 1, I asked them to direct their focus to one non-visual sensory input to help them exercise their attention in ways they were not used to, so that they could discover something new. In prompt 2, I encouraged participants to observe a small object, like a leaf or an acorn, and after observing it in detail, to shift their perspective and then consider it within the larger landscape. In prompt 3, I invited participants to collect an object that they thought might be useful. Here, I was hoping to offer a lens that made them see new affordances in the local landscape. I also wanted to see if the uses they described were more practical or symbolic. So throughout my research, I realized that just because you're physically in a place doesn't mean that you're paying attention to it, and doesn't mean that you're connected to that place, which is why merely going outside is not enough. So I observed several people walking through the park who were wearing headphones and looking down into their devices as they walked on the trails. I thought that where a person is might be best understood as where their attention is. Our experience of place is dependent on the type of attention we place in it. So think of a girl walking along a trail in Schenley Park. Physically, she's surrounded by trees and the sounds of nature, but she's wearing headphones and her focus is on her phone as she scrolls and texts. She's removed from the park. Occasionally, she looks down at the trail, maybe to avoid tripping, briefly engaging with her immediate surroundings. Meanwhile, she's connected to invisible networks, perhaps chatting with someone living in a different state. Where we are isn't just about physical location, but about where our attention is. My insights from the interviews were that many people value the landscape for its visual qualities. Again and again, people described valuing the landscape because it was pretty and its visual, aesthetic, and symbolic qualities were the primary use people found within it. Although some other uses were cited, this suggested to me that our visual culture predisposes us to value the visual qualities of the landscape first. So there is room to expand what is valued. I would love to make the importance of landscape elements, such as biodiversity, more salient to people. If they realized that they were worth more than a pretty backdrop, perhaps they'd value them more. Finally, the walk had a measurable impact. The participants increased by 0.66 on the INS scale and 0.23 on the CNS scale, showing a modest but positive effect on their connection to nature. I still need to do research on these scales to better understand what the implications of this increase are. Next, in trying to address challenges posed by my research findings, I have also begun exploring design interventions. I've been experimenting with biomaterials and have taken a special interest in using invasive species such as Japanese knotweed, which can be found by Panther Hollow Lake, as a biomaterial source. I think we can incentivize the removal of invasive species by proposing new productive uses for them. So by transforming invasive species into functional products, I hope to inspire new forms of environmental stewardship. And then moving forward, I will continue to process my research data. In terms of design, I envision a series of interventions. For example, I will continue to develop and organize more guided walks or outdoor activities to practice attention. I also have the opportunity to host a workshop with high schoolers at Phipps Conservatory at the end of February, and I'm thinking of organizing a biomaterial workshop. Thirdly, I would like to design and create more sophisticated physical products from the biomaterials I've been experimenting with. In closing, I'd like to request this feedback from you. Thank you.